Today on Torque King TV, it's U-joints, 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 and why cheaper is not always better. For the work truck, when you're not going through a lot of deep water, you're using it, that's how you make your living, or if you just want something that's going to last you years and years, I recommend going with a cold forged non-greasable. They are a lot stronger than a hot forged just in material, but also a non-greasable is not drilled all the way through. Whereas a hot forged greasable, or any greasable, is drilled all the way through. You do lose a little bit of strength in having a drilled all the way through U-joint. As seen in this demonstration here, this was a greasable U-joint that gave up the ghost. Hot forged. It's from a US manufacturer, so it's still good, but the durability of a hot forged is just not even comparable to that of a cold forged. That being said, if you're not driving a work truck or something you don't want to have to maintain the U-joints for, or if you're in water a lot of times, you will want a hot forged non-greasable. They're quite a bit cheaper as a rule. You can get them for 10 to 20 bucks at some local chain stores. I would not recommend spending that little amount of money unless you were really in a pinch or you just wanted to get rid of the truck and it needed U-joints. A better hot forged or cold forged greasable, 30 to 50 bucks, and you should be a lot better off than a $10 or $20 U-joint. Some of the colder forged ones, on the other hand, do go in excess of $100. Especially if you get race U-joints instead of the needle bearings on the inside, they can have bushings and they're usually made out of chrome moly. Those will set you back a couple $100. But if you're racing, there's another thing where you want your weakest point. What do you want to break? Personally, if I had a pulling truck or something, I'd want a nice cage around my drive shaft and run some really cheap hot forged U-joints. If you blow up a transfer case or transmission or something or a differential, going to set you back hundreds or even thousands, where with a good cage around your drive shaft, you'd break one of these. You might be out of drive shaft if you had a really good cage, maybe not. It just depends. If a U-joint breaks on you, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You're looking at thousands and thousands of dollars in damage. You don't need high horsepower, or something just dries out, or the metallurgy just isn't up to par, and the U-joint goes south on your rear pinion yoke, and then your drive shaft's flying around, takes out your fuel tank, your drive shaft's toast, probably your pinion yoke. It could be your transfer case too. I've seen a lot of U-joints on the front drive shaft. The CV joint goes out, and now you're not only buying a drive shaft, but you're buying a transfer case for a couple $1,000s. It's really what you're willing to spend or what you're doing with it. But like I said, it's a great place to have a weak point if you got a pulling truck. If it's a work truck, it is a very, very bad place to have a weak point. You know, you'd be out for a week or two waiting on parts for a work truck, not to mention the thousands of dollars it's going to cost you. And now we're going to look at the two styles in depth a little bit. This one uses the internal C-clips. See, there's no retaining ring on the outside. The retaining ring is on the inside of the yoke ears. The only thing you gotta pay attention to is when you put a new U-joint in, you file the rust off the inside of your yoke so your clip has a good place to seat. The other style is the external D-ring. You can see it retains the U-joint from the outside. Neither one is better than the other. They're both really good. If you have a bent yoke ear, if it's bent a little bit, you're really going to notice it with these because the little dog leg on the D-clip here is going to stick out when it has too much pressure on it. And when your yoke ear's bent with the C-clips, you're probably just not going to be able to get it in without putting too much pressure on it. But once you get it in, you may not really notice. With the external D-rings, you'll notice because that dog leg will be sticking out. Yokes take a couple different kind of U-joints. This particular yoke takes a U-joint with a C-clip. There's nothing to hold the cap in. The strap and bolt, in this case, strap and bolt goes over. The strap and bolt alone or U-bolt alone will not hold the U-joint cap in the U-joint. This particular style does take the C-clips that go on the U-joint and they retain it in here. Whereas this yoke does not take any clips. It's got these little tabs on it and they will retain the U-joint cap. On some of the newer vehicles, there's also the kind of U-joints and yokes that, I don't know if you can see it in the packaging in the camera, but you'll see a little plastic coming out. They won't have any clips on them. They're retained by plastic. Some places will try and tell you those are not serviceable. Yes, they are. What you do is you take a propane torch and you heat the yoke until the plastic squirts out. And then what little bit of plastic is left in there, you can drive out when you use your fancy U-joint press that won't bend the yoke ears with one of these. But yeah, shear what plastic is left. You'll see there's a little groove in there. Don't worry about it. Some of the U-joints, I don't have any here, but some of the new U-joints will also have the groove from the factory for the plastic. Don't worry about that groove either. Just put the snap ring in the groove it needs to be. Don't let plastic retained U-joints turn you away from doing a little service. Don't let anybody tell you that they can't be serviced and you have to buy a new one. Another thing with U-joints is there are conversion U-joints available. You can see this one's longer this way than it is this way. They make these because some of the yokes, either pinion or drive shaft yokes, are no longer available. If you got an old truck and you can't quite get something to work because parts are not available, well, you may be able to make something work with one of these. Another thing with conversion U-joints is if you're got a newer truck with the unitized hubs and you swap them out for a free spin kit like this Dynatrac kit here, a lot of the newer Dodges they run AAM style joints, whereas the Dynatrac kits, the outer shaft they supply you is to Spicer spec. So what we supply is a conversion U-joint. This particular one goes from 1480 Spicer to 1485 AAM. So you don't have to use the spacers supplied by Dynatrac. There's other manufacturers out there. They probably have something similar. But these ones, you have to put the spacer on the cup before you install it, and then you put your clip behind it. There's nothing wrong with that system. It works good. They're made to what they're supposed to be. However, the Dynatrac kits that we sell, we do supply a conversion U-joint, so you don't need to use this spacer. We'll send you the spacer anyway, so in the future, if you don't want to buy the U-joint from us, if you want to just go to your local parts house, you can hold on to this spacer and use it down the road. The bonus of using one of those free spin kits, here's the OEM hub assembly. The bearings are both right here, the wheel bearings. There's a lot of leverage in there when you get the wheel on here. They just don't, I mean, you get 100,000 miles out of these pretty easy. That's about what I get, 100 to 115 or so. There's people that get, I don't know, 200,000 out of them. But the whole point of going to these Dynatrac kits is to, or any free spin kit, is to move your wheel bearings. So they got a little space in them, like a conventional wheel bearing setup would have been since the dawn of time, since the wheel was in. So if you do go to some kind of a free spin kit, we can offer conversion U-joints, which are not commercially available. We've got a little inside deal on these. They're going to be, depending on what year, either Spicer or AAM OEM, but they are a lot better than something from China that somebody might make that I'm not aware of. Another thing I want to cover is for you custom fab guys that either lift your truck and raise your pinion angle, or if you're lowering your truck or making some kind of Freakenstein, make sure you got at least a few degrees angle between your drive shaft and your yoke. The reason for that is if the needle bearings don't roll all the way over, they will cause flat spots in the cross itself. The easiest way to get away from that, if that's what it turns out you got to have, is go with a fancy U-joint with the bushings in it. Well, that's about it for U-joints. If you want kind of a fire and forget thing, definitely go with the cold forge U-joint. And if you want something, either a designated weak point, or you're not using the vehicle that hard, or you're in a pinch, go with the hot forged. There's a lot of detailed information on our website about all of our U-joints. Go ahead and go on there, put in, look up your vehicle and find the U-joints and see what kind of detailed information you can bring up for each U-joint that might be available for you. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. We'll see you next time right here on Torque King TV.